There was a lot of hype around Dragon Quest XI leading up to its wide release on September 4th, 2018. Not only is it the first mainline Dragon Quest game on the PS4 and to use the Unreal Engine, it's also the first to have a Western release on console since Dragon Quest VIII in 2005. Needless to say, expectations were as high as the Zenithian Castle, and upon playing, there's a lot to love about this game. So why are some gamers having such a hard time to play through it? Now it's been released on Switch with an onslaught of additions, but what do they add to the experience, and do they warrant a second playthrough if you've already played it on PS4 or PC? What's up, creative gamers? I'm Mark, and thank you for joining me as we take a look at Dragon Quest XI in my review. Then we'll take a look at the differences between the PS4, Switch, and even the 3DS versions and determine which one you should play. Let's take a look. Now, there is a lot to love about Dragon Quest XI. The visuals are absolutely stunning, the voice acting, sound, and music are all on point, and the battle system successfully blends old and new RPG elements. That sounds great, right? And we'll get to that. But what went wrong? Where dqxi drops the ball is with its structure. This is a very linear game in terms of the main story, and for much of the game you're going to be going from point A to point B to get to the next cutscene. These cutscenes are good, don't get me wrong. The animation, story, and voice acting are all awesome, but they're extremely long and way too frequent. I want to enjoy exploration and combat, but I'm spending so much time watching these or reading character dialogue that it's taking away from the gameplay. And my god, there is so much text. More than any other game I've played. I get that it's an RPG, so dialogue is obviously part of the experience, but I want to play, not read a book. It feels like every character has paragraphs of dialogue, including non-essential characters with non-essential information, which makes me get bored or sleepy. Which brings me to my top 5 things to do in Dragon Quest XI when you get bored. Starting off at number 5 is playing with the animals. For some reason, it amuses me to see how long I can suspend in the air. I could do this for hours. You can do it to the cats, the roosters. I guess you could say I'm jumping on cock and pussy. You can even do it to the snowmen. Oh. In fourth is going exploring. Yuji Horii stated in a 2017 interview with Faminko Gamer that Dragon Quest XI was originally planned to be an open-world game, but that was scrapped to focus on the story. Oh wait, I can't go in here? Or over here? Oh come on, I can't even go here? You know where the exploration does shine? The towns. They're more elaborate than in any past Dragon Quest games, and each is influenced by real-world locations. They're the most visually stunning areas in a game that is genuinely amazing to look at. At numero 3 is to learn a new language. Each area mixes in dialogue of the real-world location they are based on, so you can head to Puerto Vallarta and immerse yourself in the Spanish language. Or you can learn to speak fish. Some open-world elements did make it in the game, like with number 2 on the list, side quests. It's here where you can break away from the connect-the-dot cutscenes of the main quest and enjoy some of the exploration, collecting, and battling that really make the game great. For example, each area has targets to shoot, mini-medals are back, and you'll get specific tasks to fulfill from people indicated by purple dots on your map. Progressing in any of these will net you items that are often otherwise difficult to come by. And finally, number 1, forging. Why buy your equipment when you can make it yourself? It's optional, addicting, and you can even get bonus stats if you do a bang-up job. It starts out simple, but gradually introduces more complex builds and techniques. You better talk to everybody and read all the books to find the recipes. Even though I had some complaints, the good still outshines the bad in this 100-hour RPG. For starters, the story is excellent. Yes, it could have been trimmed down, but I love the concept of everyone turning against the hero and seeing his appearance as a harbinger for the coming of the Lord of Shadows. As the hero, you must prove the world wrong and save the very people who thought your death was the answer to their problems. Along the way, you'll meet an eccentric cast of characters. There are a few too many, but they all bring something different to the table. Eric is a thief, contradicting his good-hearted nature with a secretive past. Veronica is a keeper sworn to protect the hero, aided by her offensive magic and stymied by a curse keeping her as a child. Serena is Veronica's twin sister and also a keeper specializing in defensive magic. Sylvando is a flamboyant traveling performer and the comic relief of the group. Rab is a well-balanced martial artist who's as insightful as he is lascivious. Jade is a fan favorite who is skilled in combat and often charms friends and fiends alike with her sex appeal. She should have her own rap video. And Hendrik is a knight of the Kingdom of Heliodor who initially believes the hero to be the Darkspawn. 8 playable characters all competing for attention in the story can get heavy, but their variety in combat helps flesh out a traditional turn-based RPG battle system. A character builder reminiscent of Final Fantasy X allows you to choose a focus for each character. This determines what weapons are best suited for them, the skills they learn for use in battle, and their new pep powers. Peps are sometimes available in combat and are generally stronger than your normal attacks, spells, and skills. There are solo pep powers along with more powerful ones requiring multiple characters to be pepped up. Enemies are manually engaged in the overworld except for in 2D mode where encounters are random. The battles take place in the actual environment and you have the option to move around freely therein, albeit to no particular benefit. Commands are made in real time rather than entered for the whole party at once, and you can swap out your characters mid-fight. One combat flaw that resonates through the rest of the game is that it's too easy, surely an attempt to attract gamers outside of Japan. You could argue in favor of the reduced difficulty because you never need to grind and you never feel lost, and to be fair, you can turn on the more challenging Dergovian settings. If you're like me and take long hiatuses from playing, you'll be thankful for the recaps provided each time you start the game. Opening the map will also show you a snippet of your next objective. Using the maps can be confusing at first until you learn the idiosyncrasies of going between areas. Again, this is not an open world game, so the connection between the area maps and the world map is a bit wonky. Finally, I do want to mention the music, which is great on the PS4, but exceptional on the Switch. More on that in a moment. I would be remiss not to mention the Japan-exclusive 3DS version, the most elusive edition of Echoes of an Elusive Age. When development started in 2013, it made sense to release on the 3DS. It was a hot console at the time, but the release of the Switch in March 2017 made most gamers forget the 3DS, and by the time DQ11 hit shelves in Japan later that year on July 29th, support for the 3DS was down to a trickle. But the 3DS version still sold well. So why not release it for 3DS to the rest of the world? There are 75 million 3DS owners after all. Details are scarce, but it all comes down to the markets and timing. On March 28, 2018, Square Enix released a statement that Dragon Quest XI was coming to North America, but disappointingly, the 3DS version would not be localized. The statement read, "From a business point of view, it made strategic sense to release the 3DS version in Japan in 2017. For the West in 2018, it made the most sense to focus on the PlayStation 4 and PC platforms." If by July 2017 3DS support was already waning, by September 2018 the console was on life support. New games were scarce at this point and sales were slow. Obviously, the Dragon Quest following in North America isn't nearly as robust as in Japan either, so it really isn't that surprising the 3DS version was cancelled internationally. But there does continue to be demand for the 3DS version, and a petition does exist on change.org. And with the rise in popularity of companies like Limited Run Games that release physical copies of games for both old and current hardware, it's possible we could see the 3DS version come to the West in the future. And I hope we do, because even though many of the features are present in the Switch version, there are aspects of the 3DS version we'll otherwise not be able to experience, including the 3D visual effects, a totally unique visual presentation compensating for the 3DS's lack of power, an ambitious dual-screen presentation allowing players to view the standard visuals on the top screen and the 16-bit visuals on the bottom screen simultaneously, a Street Pass dungeon, battle commands are issued as a team rather than individually, and you're free to land anywhere on the map when traveling by air rather than pre-designated locations. Thankfully, the 2D graphic option, as well as Yoshi Village, are making it to Switch, sans the dual-screen presentation, of course. But there are a lot more cool features for DQ11S that no one is really talking about. The Switch version, Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, is going to feature more enhancements than its title has syllables. Many of these features are inspired by the Japan-only 3DS version, while others are quality of life improvements or totally new enhancements. Now let's take a look at the original PS4 and PC versions and the differences between those and the new Switch version released on September 27, 2019. And to get the obvious out of the way, yes, the Switch version is portable and there is value to that. Although technically you could play the PS4 version using a Vita, but that plays pretty crappy. Also, it should go without saying at this point that Switch ports of games will be technologically downgraded from their PS4 and PC counterparts, so expect a decrease in resolution, texture qualities, and maybe frame rate, likely most noticeable in handheld mode. But you know what isn't going to be a downgrade from the PS4? The soundtrack. The Switch edition features a fully orchestrated score, which may not sound like a big deal, but if you listen to them consecutively, you'll notice a huge difference. Here's a sample. On the topic of sound, you can select the voice acting to be the original Japanese recordings, and Dragon Quest VIII fans will delight that when you have the dqxi outfit equipped, the music will change to that game's soundtrack. Speaking of outfits, you'll be able to switch between appearance alterations if you have the armor in your inventory without having to equip it, all exclusive to Switch. New draconian quest settings have been added. These are options to increase the game's difficulty. They include Super Shy Pox, which makes the hero even more likely to miss turns in battle, Party Wiped Out if protagonist perishes, which is self-explanatory, and Townsfolk Talk Tripe, which I find to be the most interesting of the lot. It causes NPCs to give you false or misleading information and clues and reminds me of cryptic old NES games like Castlevania 2 and The Adventure of Link. A few small enhancements for the Switch to mention before getting to the big hitters are fast and ultra-fast battle speed options, more monsters to ride, including a great saber cat you can summon using a bell, and auto-playing the cutscenes. One cool perk that no one is talking about that came from the 3DS version is you'll now see all of your active party members when traveling the overworld. It's just so much more rewarding to see the whole party rather than just the hero. Also, no one is mentioning the new Quick Commands menu accessed by pressing the plus button on the Switch controller. Here, you can select the new photo mode, use Nose for Treasure, which tells you how much hidden loot is around, and very conveniently access the fun-sized forge without being at a campsite. I took a poll on the community page of my YouTube channel asking which features you were looking forward to most in Dragon Quest XI-S on Switch, and the most popular answers by far were 2D mode and traveling to past Dragon Quest worlds. 2D mode allows you to enjoy the bulk of the game in a top-down 16-bit graphical presentation. It looks similar to the Super Famicom Dragon Quest games or many of the mobile ports. I won't get too into this, but don't underestimate 2D mode. It's like an entirely new game with every map and sprite reanimated. It even has random encounters. At some point in the game, you'll unlock the Echo Chamber, also known as Yochi Village or the town of Tickington. It's here that you can use passwords gained in the main game from tockles, which are those little ghost things that didn't really do anything on the PS4 version. These passwords unlock extra content based on the worlds of Dragon Quest 1 through 10, complete with retro graphics, music, and characters. Very disappointingly, the demo on Switch does not feature either of these enhancements, which is surprising since these are major selling points of the game. And considering that it's an 8-hour demo that allows you to resume your save into the retail version, that's a large chunk of the game to be missing out on these. To the PlayStation 4's credit though, it does have superior graphics, trophies, and the ability to go into first-person perspective, which is oddly absent on the Switch at this time. You can also find it new for under $25 compared to the new Switch version, which is $60, so there is a couple important factors favoring the PS4. But even still, all the exclusive features for the Switch make it easy to recommend this version. They add a lot to the gameplay and keep things fresh in a game that could otherwise feel like it's dragging on. It was fun to experience a Dragon Quest game that focused on story, but I'm interested to know what the game would have been like if the developers had stuck with the original plan and made Dragon Quest XI an open-world game. Yumeaki confirmed in June 2019 that Dragon Quest XII is in early development stages. I'm hopeful that Square Enix takes some of the criticisms towards 11 and refocuses their efforts for 12 towards an open-world experience that dials back on the text and cutscenes. Dragon Quest XI is a gorgeous game that successfully blends traditional JRPG elements with modern open-world mechanics in a story-driven 100-hour adventure. Pacing issues in the linear gameplay can make it feel like a slog and keep DQ11 from truly captivating players. However, there is enough good here, particularly with the new Switch version's many enhancements, including a 2D mode, which is basically an entirely new game, to warrant diving in to see if this game style clicks for you. For more on everything Dragon Quest and video games, please join the creative community and subscribe and follow Creative Games on YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. I can't thank you enough for watching. Remember that variety is the spice of life, and we'll see you next time. Holy guacamole, watch it drop it to the floor. Red trick or treats from my feet, watch it drop it to the beat. She beautiful, she beautiful. She beautiful, she beautiful.